Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. We're going on an adventure. Claire Yardley Coco. Jamie B125, you've been contributing like mad there, I see, as I've just been dealing with other stuff on the laptop. I keep seeing your name come up. And as you rightly say, well, as you say, not as you rightly say, as you suggest, could we be in lockdown until the end of March? I think I've been a blithely naive idiot in thinking that all things were going to... I suppose because I haven't thought that the government has sort of, showered itself in glory, I thought that they would just at the soonest opportunity want to lift restrictions. But you're right. I mean, obviously, it makes total sense. When you said, Jamie B125, we've only been in lockdown for 16 days, I was shocked. I was shocked because it feels so much longer. And I guess all of the other stuff that's gone before in 2020 is factoring into that. Let's say good morning to people. Gabrielle, So Unique, Jan, Mary Swift, Raspberry Mojito Girl, April Hill, Sharon Smallwood, Claire Smiley, Emma Lake, Susan Davies, Jamie B125, Tracy Blackley, Reem AW, Anastasia Alexander. I fancy a cuppa. I've got one, Anastasia. Here we go. Emma Staple, my darling. How are you? Good morning, Mark and Nadia. Good morning, everybody. Absolutely. Tasha Payne, Bev Hartnell, Ali Jolly. Morning, Mark, and all the lovely subs. And they are lovely subs. Vicky Baldwin, Emma Tipple, Katie, Grace Kelly Foylan, Denise Drummond Mulvaney, Joe Pardon, Anita O'Reilly, Pinch of Salt Eileen, Bethan Williams, Life and Love Journey ASMR, Ashley Gardner, Dragon Rose, Georgina Duffy, Susie Othman. Morning. And what a morning it was. What did you all think of Lady Gaga? Did you think Lady Gaga impressed the world yesterday? I thought it was quite remarkable. I mean, we're fans of Lady Gaga because we loved A Star Is Born, and I thought she was remarkable. J-Lo, remarkable. Garth Brooks, who to this day, whenever I hear his name, I think he's the same as the Tottenham and England defender, Garth Brooks. And as someone rightly asked there, I'm pleased someone was paying attention, was that Nanny Di sitting behind him? Ashley, it was a curious clutch of three singers, wasn't it? I was quite surprised when Garth Brooks came out. Wasn't gone on Garth. I know what you mean. He looked like a tearaway, didn't he? As he ran back up the steps, he was he hugged Barack Obama. No social distancing there. It was a very emotional ceremony. It was very empowering, and I loved. And it did look like Nanny Di behind him. And I have to confess, I had to look about 8 times. The mask was too large for the face. I think she had a beanie on. It's like Nanny Di is a little bit like Where's Wally, isn't she? Morning, Faith Goodman. I thought Gaga stood out above J-Lo just a bit, but for me it wasn't comparative. Obviously, Lucy Heaney, thank you. Amanda Gorman absolutely stole the show. 22-year-old young poet, laureate. Quite a phenomenal read, and given that she'd written half the poem already before the riots at Capitol Hill, and then essentially retrofitted what she'd written, and it was a beautiful piece of poetry, and I think a beautiful piece of oratory that I think will be one of those speeches or one of those pieces that will be studied and added to the English syllabus, I'd have thought. Absolutely beautiful. And I loved, like Nadia said, I love the way she sort of just set out her stall. I'm a thin daughter of ancestor of slaves who wants to one day run for president. I mean, as she stood there, I thought you could see her as president. And she's, if anyone's going to throw down a marker, she's done it. Miss P, I'm giving you a shout out, Miss P. Archie Clark, you're very sweet, thank you. Brilliant inauguration, gives hope for all. Yeah, let's end this uncivil war. It's terrible, isn't it? As soon as I heard him say that, I was thinking of Captain America, I was thinking of Iron Man, I was thinking of Civil War, as in Marvel. But there were some good quotes in there, and I genuinely, morning everyone, I genuinely believe that regardless of your political persuasion, there was a really refreshing film I saw somewhere of George W. Bush and Barack Obama and Clinton. I've never been a fan of the Clintons, if I'm honest. But there was something quite unifying about three leaders of different political persuasions all uniting. And I genuinely think that regardless, as I say, of your political persuasion, all we need, all it feels like is it's like we've been charging down the motorway in the fast lane with whoever's driving drinking immense numbers of coffee, looking over their shoulder, and there have been times of total recklessness, huge humour, and yet what we need now is someone to just take control of the car and put it on autopilot just a little bit. And I think that's where we're at, just to take a bit of the heat out of things. So, Archie Clark, when do you reckon schools will go back? Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask about this. I was pretty, because the government was so reluctant to close down schools because they didn't, the first time, and then they did, and then they seemed to refuse to want to, and then because everyone now seems to have made the mistake of thinking learning by rote on a computer for 8 hours a day is homeschooling. I stress it isn't. It is doing schooling from home. That's very different. And because people are hating it so much, I figured that the government would just be looking for the first opportunity to get out of this shit show. So I was thinking, like the government said, half term, February half term. But a lot of people are thinking it's going to take longer. A lot of people are suggesting the end of March. But one thing we do know today is Gavin Williamson has said that whenever it is and whatever the situation is, parents are going to be given a 2 weeks notice or run up for when that's going to happen. Now, the deaths yesterday, obviously the number count yesterday was shockingly high. I think it was over 1,800. And the little detail that just caused me a little bit of concern was seeing that the number of infections going up again. And so, we've just got to wait. I think there's just a bit of a waiting game. And I think going back to what was said earlier, we are only 16 days into lockdown. It feels like an eternity, but we are only 16 days in. NADS is on loose today, yeah. Over 1,800 deaths yesterday was horrendous, absolutely. And I've got a horrible feeling it could be around that again today, and possibly tomorrow. So in terms of schools, 2 weeks notice is going to be given. So they haven't given us notice yet. It's the 20th, so certainly not before February the 7th. But, again, when will lockdown lift? It's a big question, isn't it? A lot of people we discussed it yesterday, a lot of people were talking about the fact of Easter, other people saying end of March, some people saying June. Tony Blair has a think tank. Fascinated by this, that he has a think tank. Let me find his think tank, because his suggestion is that we could possibly go back, unless the government doesn't really ramp up its vaccinations. He was talking about June, or the beginning of June, or around May, in fact, and then suggesting until September. Now, one of the positives in all of this, again, this is where we try and come at it a bit differently, is people are talking in terms of dates for when we're out of tier 1. And so there's a sort of feeling that we could be there around, certainly out of tier 1, so that's not out of lockdown, out of tier 1, by September. There's lots of news flow today about lots of different things. So we've talked about the 2 weeks notice. There's a really odd story coming from scientists suggesting that virus levels may have risen in January. Now, I'm with the ministers on this. Imperial College London have said that swab tests suggest that there was an increase in people with the virus at the beginning of January. But as ministers suggest, that's yet to have factored in the lockdown measures. So it's kind of an irrelevant fact and statistic. And this is what annoys me, is that at these sort of what I call elbow points or joint points between one moment and another, you can't really analyse the statistics at that point because there's such a lag. So you start lockdown, 2 weeks into lockdown, you're going to get terrible numbers. We have to learn to know that there's a sort of time delay, sort of like when you used to phone abroad in the 70s. So I think it's a top story. It's a top story on the BBC News website. But I think it's a red herring of a news story, because that's because we were coming out of Christmas. So there's that. One of the other stories is Saga, that does, all the cruises. We've talked a lot about vaccine passports and whether they should happen and whether they're a legal thing or whether it's a good idea. And I was talking about a week ago about the fact that, if I was running a business that requires a lot of footfall coming in and I wanted to guarantee the integrity of the business and the safety of the customers and the safety of my staff, I think you're going to have some kind of vaccine permit or some notification. Now, none of us quibble about the idea of having, say, a donation card or a driving license without points on it. So this idea of sort of being monitored, I think it's a needs must situation. And perhaps when COVID becomes as endemic as the flu, you could possibly phase them out. They won't be as necessary. But I do wonder whether in the short term, so Saga cruises, I'm not a big fan of cruises myself. I filmed on a couple and I went batshit crazy on them because I just wanted to escape the ship. But for people over a certain age, they're a big thing. And Saga Holidays are beginning to say that they will insist upon vaccination passports, essentially, or notification that they've been vaccinated before they let them on their ships. Now, I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the crisis, there were some really, really dark and twisted stories of many people being trapped on board these vessels because of outbreaks of COVID, and they're like petri dishes, weren't they, in the sea, and people were on them for like weeks, months at end. So I think for certain industries we're going to see that coming in, and I just wonder whether that I wonder if that will likewise creep into air travel. It seems draconian, and it seems like a slight infringement, but you wonder whether it might be the thing that they need to move ahead. Let's see what some of you guys are saying. What's going on? Lady Gaga and J-Lo slayed it and were amazing. Mark, you get a letter if you've had a vaccine. Anastasia, I miss gigs, cinemas, socialising and just being in a crowd. I mean, I must admit, I've begun to miss getting annoyed at tourists in London, actually. I want to be moaning again. What's that? Ellie Pickard. Katie Wilson, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Katie Wilson. Happy birthday to you. I'm sorry Nadia's not here to do it. Yep, Leo Oliver still got the tree up and we're loving it. It's coming down. We're just too busy. Literally too busy to get everything out the loft and put everything in. But when we do it, we're going to be vlogging it for sure. Welcome, Linda Breslin. I'll be making a note of people's names who join, and I'll keep them here for when Nadia joins us for the next coffee moaning, and she'll sing your names out. Or in fact, she might do it in the members live tonight. How about that? 7:30. Ishbel Ality. Yes, we're a bit earlier today. Just got a few Zoom meetings I've got to do. So hit the thumbs up, guys. Hit the thumbs up. It's a bit earlier, so there aren't as many people here. But do hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying a little wander around the news stories. Did you see our How to Stay Married went up yesterday? I thought that was quite an honest and frank chat between the two of us. And tomorrow, obviously, Confessions of a Modern Parent goes up. And it's all about the importance of getting your kids to sleep or do exercise, and our miserable failure. Our miserable failure at doing this. And now, did anyone hear about the awful floods that are happening, and how they're having to basically bail out one of the AstraZeneca factories in, I think, is it Wrexham? In Wrexham. Apparently one of the factories is under pressure. So can you believe it? It's like being hit from all sides, isn't it? It's like being walloped from all sides. So we've got that. We've got the schools. Welsh AstraZeneca vaccine facilities not disrupted by flooding, says Whatcott UK says. Okay, well, there you go. So they've been working hard to ensure that the factory isn't threatened by floodwaters. So I know fire services are out there. I saw that LBC broke the news very early on this morning. So here we go. The Sun, Oxford COVID vaccine at risk of flooding as 2,000 homes evacuated. Again, the story is I think they've sorted it. Emergency services have raced to Wrexham and last night to protect the jab, as 2,000 homes across England were evacuated. But I mean, parts of the country, are any of you guys in a part of the country where flooding or snow is happening? It is like we're living in a disaster movie, isn't it? Thank you, Pearl Murphy. Thank you. Is anyone sat in the middle of snow? Jade Louisa, my town in Kent has only just started vaccinating the 90-year-olds. Well, there's a lot of talk, isn't there? I think the Tony Blair Institute for Analysis of the World and stating it in a really arrogant fashion, I think that's what his organisation's called, or stating it in a fashion like, haven't you already thought of that, making you feel stupid? I think the suggestion there is that somewhere, apparently the government won't reveal how many vaccines or doses they've got because they're worried it will create a problem with sourcing more. And then you've got things like the WHO saying we have a moral obligation it's a very difficult one, this, isn't it? In the developed countries have got the vast majority of the jabs on the planet. They've spent so much more money, billions. Developing countries haven't got it. If you don't solve this crisis globally, you're, in a sense, it's just something that's going to sort of sit undealt with for years to come. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know whether we're about to enter a little sort of dodgy period for the government where they've got less vaccines than they say they've got. The number of vaccinations is going to start to go down a bit per day, and our targets are going to start to shift. Live and Love Journey ASMR, I don't live far from Adderley Green. Well, you're not going to bloody believe it, but Adderley Green, I was saying this to someone else online, Adderley Green is where my great-great-great-grandfather on my granddad's side, it was named after his pottery. He had the Daisy Beck, was it Daisy Beck? No, not Daisy Beck, was it? The Daisy Cottage, or, oh my God, I've forgotten the name of it. Anyway, they had a pottery in Stoke. And and unfortunately, my great-great-great-grandfather obviously ran that pottery. He suffered from, obviously, depression. This is interesting. And he shot himself. And the Adderley pottery was sold off, I think, to Wedgwood or Royal Dalton or something like that. Patrick Salt, Mark, you were telling my mum Lorraine about it, I think. I was, that's right. And then it was weird because they're like my granddad, so Nanny Thelma's husband, used to tell me about the fact that his mum married, but was seen to have married beneath herself. So the Adderleys, posh Adderleys, kind of cut them off. Yeah. Love conquered all. But yeah, anyway, so there you go. Bobby Ward, you've got some Adderley pottery. Yes, yeah, so Adderley Green, I think there used to be an Adderley house or something like that. But yeah, there you go. So it looks like depression ran in the family a long time ago. Pretty sad to shoot himself, eh? So there you go. Little history of the Adderley potteries. Molly 26 Rose, we aren't safe until the world is safe. The virus could still mutate in other countries and a new mutant strain could make the vaccine redundant. Lots of the companies making the vaccines are rapidly shifting and changing and developing and adjusting the vaccines that they're making to cope with new variants. There's a lot of debate. I saw a story, where is the Times? I saw a story today suggesting that some doctors are saying that the delaying of the second vaccine dose could put patients at risk. There's this report coming out of Israel that if the longer you delay between the first jab and the second jab, the efficacy really starts to fade quite dramatically, which isn't what we've heard, is it, before? Head of the Doctors Association, which represents frontline medics, have demanded immediate explanations of what steps are being taken to keep track of patients who've had the first dose because of fears that the follow-up could be missed. And they want to see what the implications are for delaying. What do you think about the delay? What do you think about the delaying of the second jab? They never answer questions on GMB. It's a pointless process. I don't know why they go on. What do you think, guys? What do you think about this delaying of the second jab? NADIA had the Pfizer jab, by the way. Stupid Archie Clark says. Yeah. I mean, I do remember at the time, even Pfizer was saying, we don't recommend it. Bethan Williams, stupid. Good chip lollipop, I think it's a total scam. Katie finds a pen, second jab shouldn't be delayed. Waste of the first jab, Nora Doyle. It's not right. I think they're still working on it, Pauline Mulvey. I can understand it, get as many people's first jab done as possible. Yeah, I understand the philosophy, but it wasn't done with any evidence, was it? Not robust evidence. It was done a bit on a wing and a prayer and a hunch. It was done on a hunch. And whilst, you know, on the one hand, yeah, we need to run at kind of getting as many done as possible. But I mean, it's Intel coming out of Israel, who've vaccinated, I think, nearly a third of their population. I mean, their population is virtually the size or less than the size of London's population. So it's certainly more manageable to get a smaller population done. But they're at 30%. So, you know, and I think as Nadia said, I think they're being seen as a test case for mass vaccination. So looking to them, we need to look to them and listen to what's coming out there rather than ignoring it. Or because we want to willfully believe we're doing the right thing and we don't want to worry people, we just keep blithely pushing ahead. Daniela Potgeiter, Israel showing vaccine not working. Well, apparently the efficacy is much lower than they originally thought en masse. And this is one of the issues with rushing any vaccine through, is that, of course, you haven't had the opportunity to test it, you know, writ large across a massive population. So there are obviously going to be sort of bumps and development problems along the way. So, you know, I think it's important that we don't just, again, it's really important that if people question the efficacy of doing this, it's not people being, as Boris would say, what is it, Project Fear. To question something isn't to just not be part of the team or be towing the party line. It's about interrogating, and it's about interrogating in order to then potentially rectify it and make the right decision. Okay, you know, if I was leading the country and I was getting intel coming through that actually the 12-week gap thing could be seriously reducing the overall efficacy of the jabs, I'd possibly talk to my team and say, right, okay, well then let's really target just the over 70s with what we've got and think of another approach. Yeah, exactly. We should question everything. Otherwise, we'd just become doff our cap kind of people. Claire Smiley, still not sure if getting vaccine. Plenty of time to decide, I suppose. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so what have we talked about? So, yeah, so Biden's obviously in office. He's kind of now not going to build the wall. He's chucking out everything that Trump was doing. Britons could face a ban on entering the EU. This is the latest bit of news, right at the top of the Times list of headlines. European governments would be allowed to ban all UK residents from entering their countries and to cut all passenger transport links with Britain under a new proposal the Germans are putting forward. They want there to be proof that we have a control of coronavirus in our country before our citizens can travel abroad. So once again, free travel, free movement, not looking so free, not looking so good, and you're beginning to wonder whether we're just seen as a... Oh, did anyone see Putin's £1 billion palace built with illicit funds? Never, and old Putin just chucking himself in the water. I don't think he'll be pleased with the photo I'm looking at. Let me show you, because he looks like actually cold water is cold, and as we know, Putin doesn't do human emotion. There's a frightening image. There's his palace, overlooking that beautiful coastline. And there's him, having a dip. Let's get right in on his face. Ooh, how cold is that, Putin? So Navalny is really, what's it called? Poking the bear. It's really poking the bear. Do you remember that image of Putin on a, what was he on? Was he on a wildebeest or a horse? Like that. He loves getting his kit off. A bit like me and next week's, I can never get the bloody title right. on your mark, get set, cook, will be a serious attempt, though there will be some humour, at cooking something, rather than me just flapping around like a nutter. So yeah, Putin's 1 billion palace, says Navalny, from prison cell. Oh, bless him, bless him. He just needs more room for his horses, and he needs more room to be able to, more pools to do his cold dips into freezing. Has anyone else ever been sort of wild swimming? Have you ever done wild swimming? I once did it when we were trekking through, me and a friend were trekking through California once, and we went cold water swimming. I'd broken my ribs playing sport, and I was swimming. It was agony, and it was so cold. It was so cold. It was such a shock. Apparently, it's really good for you. I always think it's going to give you a heart attack. When we were training to go up to the Arctic, we had to do this thing where they would, in Norway, they trained it. We went up for a couple of weeks, and they cut a hole in the ice, and then you have to jump in it. And then you have to, when you get out, the way you get warm when you've fallen into Arctic water is you roll around in snow. Yeah, it's a little bit like the concept of the igloo. It's kind of a way of insulating. It's a way of insulating. Yes, the film is finished. We're just waiting literally for a post-production house to open so I can take it up there and do the last 3 days. We were literally scheduled and lockdown hit. So as soon as lockdown lifts, we can get in. You can't socially distance in an edit suite, unfortunately. It's really tricky. And obviously I use another editor for it all and a sound mixer. But yeah, it's cut, it's done. It's just waiting. It's just waiting. Frustrating. Life and Love Journey ASMR. Yeah, I haven't got all my rings on today, actually. Again, the place to make them all fit my fingers isn't open. Claire Smiley, yep, you can go into shop. Kate finds a pen. We did a series years ago with Joe Brand where we did a lot of wild swimming, and it's bloody cold. It's really, really cold. So guys, hit the thumbs up if you've enjoyed our chat. It's a bit of a briefer one today. There's not much news going. I've got to scoot off. The film will be on the festival circuit, Xander. It's kind of scheduled to go into a couple of festivals first. I will be allowed to show snippets, but if you show the whole film out of the festival circuit, it disqualifies it from being eligible. It has to have, essentially, I mean, it sounds show busy, a premiere status for certain festivals in order for them to show it. So, but we will be doing a trailer for it and all that kind of stuff. But I can't do the trailer until the final grade, the final mix down, audio mix down has all happened. And it's really frustrating because essentially it's there, it's done. But I'm such a perfectionist, I don't like showing any bits of it to people until it's absolutely polished. And I just need to be able to sit in an edit suite, really cramped, without ventilation, and do it. And that is the headache. Anyway, guys, look, lots of love. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Victoria Jenner and Linda Breslin, you are on the list for us to mangle your name when Nadia is next here. And some cards are going out today, and there's a members live tonight at 7:30, and there is a Cornish vlog landing at some point today. Head over and check out our How to Stay Married. Head over to check out our review of WandaVision, WandaVision, not WandaVision. I think it's a treat, actually. If you've got Disney Plus, try it. Arrivederci. Take care, and see you at 7:30 for the members live, guys. Bye.